Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nikki Vo, and I'm your host. I am a boat owner, a marina owner, a director on the Marina Industries Association, and a huge advocate for boating. In this series, I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there, enjoying the waterways. So let's set off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. This one's a bit daunting for me because I am sitting in front of an incredible woman who has an amazing media career background, and she has her very own podcast as well, which is extremely successful. So Shirley Robertson, welcome to the Boat Princess podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on it. It's slightly daunting for me also because I like to ask the questions. and at the ripe old age of which I'm at, I don't often really like talking about myself. So a little bit daunting, but I have actually listened to the Boat Princess podcast and I'm excited to be on it.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting you say that I guess as we do get older, we do think our story isn't particularly interesting, but yours is pretty stunning. I mean, 2 gold medals consecutively in sailing. That's something we'll talk about, and we're gonna start by going right back to your childhood. Where was your childhood?
Well, I suppose not the conventional sailing background from someone from the UK. I mean, I grew up right in the middle of Scotland. When I opened my bedroom curtains, I looked at a great big hill, and generally it was raining. Not the sea or a lake or anything. But the thing about Scotland is you're never very far from water. And also I grew up in the era of DIY. It was DIY everything. And my dad actually built a kit dinghy in the garage. And when I go home now to my mum's house, she's still in the same house. You can see the outline of resin still on the garage floor. I mean, I'm not sure it was the best build, but, we were just in that era, weren't we? Where we built things and we did things. And
was that a mirror?
It was a mirror miracle. So it was sort of, the upgrade.
Yeah.
And we took it on holiday with the caravan up the west coast of Scotland. And then eventually we joined a sailing club, which was on a loch, like a lake in Scotland, beautiful, in the Queen Elizabeth Forest Park, a place called Loch Arzen. I mean, huge, great memories, from just mucking about in boats and the freedom of it. I mean, everybody says that, as a child, when you get in a boat and they sort of push you off and you're all by yourself, it's an amazing feeling. And there's an island in the middle of the loch, we used to go there and it was, oh my God, it felt so naughty, such a big adventure. It was hardly crossing oceans, but it was a good start. And I remember actually it was just a small club with club racing. And they brought in an instructor from the Royal Yachting Association just to do a couple of weeks training with the kids. And I passed with distinction and got this certificate. And that was it. Like, I didn't want to sail with my dad again. I just wanted to do it by myself. And I was kind of off. I mean, I was an only child. I was, I guess, quite tenacious and competitive. And, and I loved it. And I loved the way that you could get better and better with each outing. And I could beat the adults. And, it was all good. It was a happy time.
That's an interesting thing about boating with kids, isn't it? Especially now, we really sort of cotton wool the kids and don't let them do anything on their own and all those sorts of things. But boating is one area where I know when my boys were younger, we would take the big boat out and they had these little kayaks that were specifically for kids. And they would go and kayak over to the beach. And I remember them coming back one because we said, oh, there's a squall coming in. Come back to the boat. Come back to the boat. So they're coming back and this squall's just starting and they're so determined and they're, on these kayaks and we can see their little faces just coming back to the boat. And you think that's a real life lesson and a moment in time that they'll probably never forget, but also they've learned so much. And it's boating gives kids independence. So you had that independence in a very cold environment, though. How was it sailing in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm such a wuss, but you're absolutely right. Freezing and terrible kit, and quite quickly I progressed, and I was then in the Scottish squad, which meant you sailed in the winter, so things kind of got worse.
Yeah,
and I've lots of memories of sort of sailing with the men. That's just kind of how it was. I was in the laser squad and in the snow on the west coast of Scotland and having to be rescued over and over again. And but I don't know, we didn't know any better. So that was that. I mean, I'm a parent. I have a boy and a girl. They're 17, and I was the loosest parent, I think, around sailing, just for that reason. Also, I mean, my son would say I was mean because I never helped rig the boat, or I was never, now you see some of the parents on the right with waders and helping them launch and recover. No, I didn't do any of that. You've got a boat. We live by the sea. You've got a mate. Just get on with it. And actually now he's 17. I can see it's actually served him well and he can appreciate it. But at the time it was, everyone else's parents rig their boat and you never help me. But it's a lovely thing about sailing, isn't it? You just get these little wins of independence and you can be as brave as you dare that day, really. It's a good sport for that.
But it also teaches kids a level of responsibility, safety, and that, having to rig the boat yourself and then having to clear up the boat yourself at the end of it, that's teaching them fundamentals of this is what you have to do to do this, as opposed to you doing it for them. So I'm guessing now that your 17-year-olds are independent in other ways too, because you've done that. Would you say that?
Certainly, my daughter doesn't sail, but my son does. Certainly around sailing, he understands the importance of, packing away things properly and everything in its place. And yeah, I think he learned that lesson quite young. I think you're right. And even in his life, he's generally quite organised and self-sufficient. And certainly I see him now around bigger boats. He's the kid, the nipper, as we'd say where I live.
Yeah.
And, he's useful. He's looking for the next job. He's not just waiting for, the adult to deal with it. He's looking to help. And, I'm quite proud of him then.
Yeah.
I think I might have traumatized him a little bit at a young age.
No, I think you created that's a good thing. Okay, so you're sailing lasers up in Scotland. Now, just to explain to everyone, sailors is those that don't know different boat classes. Lasers are a single-handed dinghy, and they're used a lot, lasers, for training people how to sail, aren't they?
Well, I think they've sold. What have they sold? Like 200,000.
Yeah.
They're still in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's the men and women's boat currently in the Olympics, and they will be in Paris. It's just crazy that they've lasted. They're not. There's nothing good. It's not like you look at the design and think, oh, that was brilliant design.
Yeah, they're pretty simple.
They're simple.
Yeah.
There's lots of them that were relatively cheap. And at the time, I was laser sailing. There wasn't really an Olympic pathway for women. You think 1988 was the first sailing medal for women. 84 was the first marathon. And I know that seems a long way away, but it was really my sort of formative years. I was a teenager. I was at college. I was really into sailing. I was reasonably good in the UK. And I remember watching the 88 Olympics in Seoul in my mum's kitchen, and there's, the little telly on the counter. And Britain won a medal. And there was just this clip on the news, this tiny little clip. And I sort of vaguely knew the guy that won it. He was Scottish, a guy called Mike McIntyre, and he won this Olympic medal. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's Scottish. And kind of like, if he's from round here. There was just like a real moment, and I can still really remember watching that clip of Mike Winnie's gold medal. And in the next Olympics, which would have been Barcelona, they introduced a single-handed discipline for women, which is kind of what I did. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll give that a go. But it was in a boat. We didn't even have it in the UK. And I remember we went to the first World Championships, five British women just out the lasers. And it was in the Europe class, which was much more technical, refined little boat. And we were last, second last, third last, fourth last, and fifth last. Like, right. It's a good job. There's sort of 4 years to go to the Olympics because we've got a lot to learn. But yeah, that was the start of it. And I finished my degree, and I don't know, it was a different time in sport then. In British sport now, it's pretty well funded through the lottery, and most of the athletes are full time. Whereas then, it was really hard to fund stuff. But I did make the decision in the end that if I was going to go to Barcelona, and at the time I was the best in the UK, that I was going to, not do my masters. I was going to just try. But when you look back, I don't know how, really. Just ran it on credit cards, and not much coaching, and a few grants here and there. Pretty amateur by today's standards. But amazing to go to Barcelona. I'm there a lot now with the America's Cup, and there's all those memories coming back because it was completely a city rejuvenated by the Olympic Games. It was a city that always looked towards the land, and for 92 they looked towards the sea, and now it's it's an amazing place. And I suppose the real moment of motivation was watching that medal ceremony, not being in it. Yeah. I finished 9th, but I suddenly sort of something clicked, and I'm like, I really do want to do this, and I better kind of find out how to do it. But winning medals is about resources largely. Yes. And so you got to get funding, because you need to surround yourself with the best people you possibly can. And also it's a technical sport, so you have to move that game on as well. You can't just accept what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. So a couple of things you said there. One was that you saw somebody win a gold medal that was from Scotland, and that made you feel that suddenly you were potentially capable of doing that. And that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, that you can't be what you can't see. So the fact that we talk to incredible women in sailing and incredible women in the boating industry is why I do this, to show other women and other men out there that, these people have achieved these things, so you can do it too, sort of thing. And the other thing that you mentioned is that you just wanted to be that, and you said, I can do that. Now, you've already achieved best in Britain. How did you achieve that? What was that pathway that you achieved that?
The Olympics is hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Once every 4 years. And not lots of people try, and not very many people, are successful. Yeah. So that's the reality of it.
Yes.
But at the time, I don't know, I just sort of was finding my way. I plied my own furrow in a way. I wasn't going to get money. It wasn't, not everything wasn't going to be paid by the federation. So we had to raise money, commercial sponsorship, and worked a bit, and I don't know, just kind of somehow made it work. But I sort of knew the areas which needed investing, which was, the technical aspects. And I've always enjoyed that about the sport. Actually sort of learning, we built our own composite rigs. It was quite a long time ago, working with like really smart people. And I love that. Also, the tiny little things, but the foils, the centerboard and the rudders, and tiny differences make, well, it's all about tiny differences. Yeah. Those tiny differences make the difference. And also, I did more sailing. You just have to do a lot of it. Yeah. So, I was really quite focused. In a way, when I look back, probably too kind of, I don't know, wanted it too much. I did lots of other sailing as well, which is something you can do in our sport. I did lots of match racing, and that helped in a way too, because, you know, it is a mental kind of strategic, tactical game. And just to somehow take a little step sideways into a different arena, perhaps sailing with other people, you also learn. And the Europe's obviously a single-handed boat. And it's hard graft just on your own. Mentally, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, I did a lot, and then I didn't medal in Atlanta by a point, you know, and I can still pinpoint the sort of 2 or 3 mistakes in the week. But I mean, I was so devastated. I just cried and cried and cried.
Yeah.
You know, I was so upset. And it's, you know, now I'm much older. I look back and I think, God, you know, there was just no perspective. You know, it's just sport. It's just sailing, but it meant everything. And I had thrown a lot at it. And I remember arriving back into London, sitting in my car at Gatwick Airport, not really knowing if I started the ignition where I was going to go, you know, because everything had been about this Olympic Games in Atlanta. And I came back with, you know, I was 4th. Like, no one calls you. No one knows what to say. It was just nothing. It was the most miserable winter ever.
Oh my goodness.
It was so bad. They don't know. They use language like bereavement.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to deal with it. But actually, obviously, everybody says this, but you learn the most from those. And actually now, obviously, I do lots of podcasts with very successful sailors. Quite often, the ones who finished 4th then go on to succeed. And you should always fear the person who did finish 4th.
Yeah.
They just have that extra something. I mean, they're so analytical about the performance, you know, no stone is left unturned. And so then I came back from Sydney, I literally threw everything at it. And it did coincide with British sport then started to be funded by the lottery. So not only did I have the will to make it happen, we also, you know, had an injection of cash. And we saw that in the Sydney Olympics. We saw the benefit of that. I mean, Britain won, I think, 3 golds, 2 silver and a bronze. I mean, it was amazing, Olympics.
And one of those golds was yours.
Yeah, in Sydney Harbour. I mean, I still get, just thinking about it, I get all goosebumpy. But, you know, what a treat. I mean, what an amphitheatre for our sport. And, you know, for people, I guess quite a lot of people listening will know it, you know, to smell the fish and chips from Watson's Bay when you're out racing and know that the wind shift's going to come from there. Or, you know, in one race, I caught the surf of the Manly Ferry, you know, and overtook 3 boats. And the sort of the detail I love about sailing, sort of sniffing out, you know, an advantage. And it was so good. And it was September, wasn't it? So it was the spring in Sydney, which is really unpredictable. You're not just sailing in the thermal and the sea breeze. So every day was new and different. And the British team was all over it. Obviously, we had, you know, some amazing sailors at that Olympics. Sir Ben Ainslie, you know, the greatest Olympic sailor of all time, and Ian Percy. And we pooled our knowledge. And so we felt like we knew the place inside out, whereas others feared it. Yeah. And then we had our, you know, then 1 gold. I mean, I led all the way through until the penultimate race. And then I had a terrible race. I remember coming alongside my coach and just in floods of tears. And I still joke. I just discovered this lately, that he could see me coming. He's like, "Oh my God, what the hell am I going to say to her?" You know, it was so terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, he'd called Mike McIntyre, the guy I'd seen won a gold medal.
Yeah.
He called him up and he's like, "What am I going to say to her?" And he's like, "You know, just tell her what she's done." And actually, I had secured a medal, but obviously the points were closer, and I then had to nail the last race.
Wow.
Which I did.
Yeah.
And then got my gold medal on the steps of the Opera House with the bridge behind at night, the Olympic rings on the bridge. And the only medals won that night were either British or Australian.
Wow.
And, you know, the Australian sporting fan is just is not beaten, is it, around the planet?
No, we're pretty full on. Yeah.
It was so good. It was, I mean, I go there now and it brings a tear to my eye. It was so special. And I feel like I was very fortunate that was kind of one of my moments.
Oh, that's just amazing. Yeah. And then you won another one in 2004. I mean, that you're the first British woman to do that, consecutive gold medals in 2 Olympics, right?
Oh, yeah, in any sport.
In any sport. That's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I obviously, you win a gold medal, you think you're, I don't know, you just think you're the bee's knees.
I don't know. I've never been there.
I mean, it took me a long time to win that first Olympic gold. It was my 3rd Olympics. But after that, I definitely had and people often ask me, did it change you? But I just have a confidence that I could make things happen.
Yep.
I think that, with hard work and tenacity, you could give it a good shot to make stuff happen. And I still sort of have that in my life. Quite often, I don't know, I'll be given a project which, other people walk away from, and I think, no, I'll turn this around.
Yeah.
And so I do have that kind of confidence. And so I didn't want to do the same again. I had obviously done it for quite a long time by myself. And I took that confidence into a new discipline. It was introduced for the Athens Olympics in 2004, which was 3 women in a small keelboat. What could possibly go wrong? Oh my God, it was so hard. It was a boat that we didn't have any in the UK, so no knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'd sail with 2 other people. And also there hadn't been the legacy of amazing women sailors, just because there hadn't been. I mean, in a way, I was a bit of a trailblazer. So there wasn't like a ton of experienced, brilliant sailors to pick. But luckily, I had sailed, one of my training partners was a brilliant sailor, and she then went on to win 2 gold medals, a girl called Sarah Aitons. She came with me. But I mean, like a year, 18 months out, we'd no money. It was so expensive, a keelboat. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We'd no money. We didn't have a crew, so it was only the 2 of us. And actually, we didn't have a boat because the boat ended up, it was part of a debt. And that was, sorry, this isn't going really well. It's just kind of you and I, Sarah, to make this work. But actually, I always think if you get the right people around you, you have more time than you think. And we did. We didn't have the money to pay him, but we hired a great coach, a double silver medalist called Ian Walker. He's now with North Sails, and he came. And once he came, I don't know, it just kind of changed it. It changed the culture in a way. Like we knew with Ian, we could make all this work. And we secured another crew, Sarah Webb. We sort of pulled her out of a laser, and there was a year to go. But anyway, we used our time well.
Yeah.
And in the end, we actually won the gold medal in Athens with a day to spare. And
Amazing.
We went to the spa.
Oh, I love it.
I knew you'd like that. Well, whilst our competitors were sort of duking it out for silver and bronze.
Yeah.
We're getting our nails done. No, sounds a bit mad now. I was reminding my crew of the words of the national anthem in the jacuzzi. But it was a good moment, and it really felt at times like that gold medal chance was slipping away.
Yeah.
And I had the fear also because I was now responsible for 2 other people and their hopes and dreams and their ambitions. It wasn't just me. So it was like, it was so hard. It was so hard to get right. And I think, we kind of overshot. We were so good at the whole thing, the whole package, the technical package and how we sailed and the decision making and communication's hard, with 3 people.
Yeah.
And so, we just worked and worked and worked. And
so how much sailing would you have been doing a week at that time? Just to give people a reality check.
Long days. I mean, it sounds a bit mad now, but quite often we would tow out in the dark. If we wanted to work on downwind, for example, we'd tow upwind in the dark and do massive long downwind and big long days.
Mm.
I'm a fan of the big long days, but I mean, I enjoy sailing. I still race and campaign, and quite often everyone's like, yeah, maybe we should go in. But I fundamentally enjoy sailing, and I love just tuning, two boats side by side, just trying to get the best out of the boat, finessing things and changing things. And I absolutely love that. So yeah, I'm a fan of the long day.
So you're quite a scientific brain, aren't you? You like that technical sort of really knuckling down the detail together. And you've done that, I have to say, to just explain to everyone, we are currently in Portugal at the World Marinas Conference, and Shirley is the MC for this conference. And I have never seen an MC put so much detail into what they're doing, and the professional and very polished and very detailed approach that you've taken to this as an MC is quite incredible. And so that's not just sailing, that's your whole personality, isn't it?
Well, if I'm going to do a job, I want to do well.
Yeah.
And I want to be prepared. There is times, but we'll get onto the fact that I've worked in broadcasting for ages. Yeah. There's lots of times, particularly live, where you're completely winging it.
Yes.
But that is not a mode that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I think, I feel it's a real privilege. This is not really, really my world. I mean, obviously, I hang out in marinas quite a lot.
Yes.
And I did the conference 2 years ago in Dubai. So I have an understanding, but I just feel that I want to put energy into it. It's a privilege to be asked and to be paid to do this job. And I know what it's like to speak at a conference as well. And I guess I just think everyone who speaks deserves my energy. And the fact that I might have thought about what I was going to say and Googled. And I mean, I hear what you say. I go to conferences as well, and I see a lot of people who just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, I enjoy it more if I'm more into it, if I understand what's going on. And actually, I love this conference because I don't know the nuts and bolts of it, but I'm curious.
Yes.
I want to know why a marina, degrades, or, we had a talk yesterday about fires. Oh my God. I mean, it's unbelievable how quickly a boat just takes light, isn't it? And and they were, that was a great talk. They were talking about, well, it's health and safety around fires and marinas and things that you hadn't even thought about. So I love that. I feel it's a real privilege. And I think you're right. With my sailing, I like to arrive on the start line having stacked the odds.
Yes.
I want to arrive on that start line thinking I am faster, and whatever happens with the weather or the conditions or in the race, I got it covered. I mean, things happen in sailing and you can't predict.
Yeah.
You can't predict them. But generally, I want to know that I'm fast in every condition. So that'll get me out of trouble. And that together we're good decision makers. And that we know the venue.
Yeah.
Like no venue was quite as acute for that as Sydney. You had to literally smell it.
Yes, it's different every day, Sydney Harbour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you're right.
It really is a privilege to have your ears with us for every episode. Thanks to our sponsors, also Quality Marine Clothing. If you would like to become a sponsor of the Boat Princess podcast and join them, then please do contact us by emailing info@theboatprincess.com or send us a DM on Instagram, The Boat Princess. We have a great following on Instagram, and of course the podcast is extremely popular worldwide, so you're reaching an amazing dedicated audience that loves boating and loves working in the boating industry, or perhaps is considering joining the boating industry. So it's a fantastic audience, and we hope that you'll Join us in sponsoring us. So let's go back to that media world for you and that time you had with CNN and tell me all about that part of your career.
Well, I'd always done a little bit in television. I remember, even around the Barcelona time, actually, I got a job logging tapes. Remember those tapes? In the local TV station. And it was a job I could do at night when I'd finished, I'd been to the gym and I'd done my training and I bought work and everything. And so I got paid to work in the evening. So I suppose I'd had an interest, and I am, I like people like you. I'm interested by people and story, and sailing's great for that. Boats are great for that. The people are really passionate, aren't they? And mad often, good mad, and I just adore all that. So I had dabbled a little bit, and I'd done some stuff, in sailing, how-to videos and things like that. And then after Athens, 2 gold medals do open some doors, and I knew that I wanted to do more in broadcasting, and it opened a door with the BBC, and I had a year's training, which was amazing, because you can do everything there, radio, live, you're out with the OB, and I was doing all kinds of sports, didn't really know anything about, script writing, also, news. So you have to do things quickly, and time to craft packages. And so it was so good. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. When I meet some of my colleagues, they still laugh at me, on some ice rink, just kind of crumpling. Anyway, I learned a lot, and soon after, actually, I was still racing. It's very hard to give up the Olympics.
I can imagine,
and I guess every Olympic athlete will say that it's hard to know when to go.
Yes,
especially when you've been, not especially if you've been successful, but if you see people stay too long because they've dedicated such a long time. And in our sport, you can. You can be well into your 30s or 40 maybe.
Yeah.
And I had been successful. So, I was good at it. So I'm like, why would I stop? Anyway, I kept going. And then I was pregnant and had twins. So there was
Did that kind of stop it?
There was a lot on. But anyway, no, I still, I thought I could do everything like you do.
Yeah.
And just had the maddest year. I had these 2 tiny children.
Wow. Go you.
I was trying to qualify for the Olympics. And I look back, I was like, what the hell? And I was working then for CNN every month.
At the same time?
Yes. I did like 4 or 5 days a month. But still, it was just...
When you got twins and training for Olympics as well, that's a big
I just thought I could do everything. But in the end...
but you could. You did, didn't you?
Not quite.
You didn't? Okay.
Not quite. So the trials were not far from here, actually, in Cascais. Anyway, in the end, 2 British boats finished first and second in the Worlds, and we were second. And so the other team was picked. But... when I look back with a bit of perspective, I'm quite proud of that crazy year.
Yeah. So you should be.
But on the other hand, I perhaps should have, I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? You're a mother. It's difficult to know when to let go of things. And it's something which had defined me, and something I was good at, and something I'd done for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, it did start me on my journey with CNN. And actually after that year, I got way more involved in it. And it was such a privilege. For the program ran for 15 years. It was called Mainsail, sponsored by Rolex. And they did a sailing show and a golf show. And it was just a wonderful mini documentary every month. And then in the end, I pulled it all together and you crafted it, with some brilliant people, and told incredible stories about amazing people. Land yachting in Nevada at the Land Yachting World Championships. I took part, and they're just fabulous people. Or all kinds of things, classic events, obviously the big regattas. You know, we stayed on the Fascinating Lighthouse and told a story about the disaster that happened 30 years before. I mean, you name it, we kind of did it. And that's the way we put it together. If we were genuinely interested by something, then we made it happen. And CNN obviously is an amazing brand, as is Rolex. And we did it so long, people trusted us. So nobody said no.
We love that.
And I'm very good, a bit like you also, I'm very good at just asking.
Yes.
So, you know, we had all kinds of people on, really, royalty and billionaires and all kinds of things. But I'm really proud of you know, with 13 years, 12 episodes a year. I think the sport really misses it because there's no storytelling now that's not really commercial, that's not paid for by the event, and that's not real, it's not raw.
Yeah.
And it's a shame it's gone.
And covering some things that may not necessarily be covered, right? Because they're not mainstream, like the land yacht racing.
Yeah.
That's something that people may not even know anything about until you covered it. So that must have been nice, really bringing those really unique stories to the world.
You know, sailing, boating generally, it's just full of people who are really passionate.
Yeah.
About what they do. And I mean, the land yachting was just fabulous. I mean, complete alien to me. And in a place which was alien, and this massive the best sunsets on this dried lake bed. And there's a bit like sailing, you know, there's like entry level ones. And I remember the first day I'm in this entry level land yacht. It's literally a laundry chair and some tubes of aluminium and 2 tires like you get on a cart in the marina. That's it. And I am doing 60 miles an hour on one wheel, being filmed out the back of our truck. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on a laundry plastic chair. I mean, it was mad. And so quickly kind of got used to it, sort of went on better and better land yachts. But then there was, you know, the sort of GTI version that people who'd beavered away in their garages in North America all winter and then wheeled it out. And like beautiful. There was one which was just polished aluminium and, you know, wing sails like we see in Sail GP and, you know, really technical. And I love that, the thought of people just tinkering away in their garages all winter and then creating this amazing thing which will do over 100 miles an hour. Just crazy.
Amazing. So you still sail now?
Yes. I mean, there was a period of time I kind of lost my mojo for it. I mean, for the last more than a decade now, I've raced in the super yacht circuit, which is, you know, fantastic. You know, big teams of people and great owners and amazing locations, you know, St. Bart's or Palma or Antigua. I mean, fantastic places.
Yeah.
In the most beautiful boats ever designed. And I really started because I was friendly with, at the time, he was the most prolific and renowned super yacht designer, a guy called Ed Dubois, and he was a friend of mine. And I remember he got me involved, and I turned up and we're in the British Virgin Islands, and this huge big boat. It was like, you know, 50 meters or something. And I'm at the wheel and there's like 30 people. I'm like, right, fake it till you make it.
You are amazing.
Oh my God. He's like, you'll be fine, darling. You'll be fine. Anyway, if you concentrate and you've got a good team around you, it's kind of okay. But I mean, it's such a good team sport. And you think of all the people that have worked on those boats.
Yeah.
You know, the years and years in design and build and maintenance and the captain and the crew, and to actually see them all race against each other in this beautiful backdrop, you know.
Yes.
Portocervo here in Italy, you know, you race around these stunning rock formations and the most amazing pictures. And I think I always think of all those people that have made this fantastic yacht, which will last, you know, for a long time.
Yeah.
we're showing it off for them,
Yeah.
We really are. And so I did a bit of that, and then I hadn't sailed that much actually until COVID. So now I was working less, at home more, and I live in Cowes on the Isle of Wight, the home of yachting.
Yes, absolutely.
When the America's couple started, all of that. And the only sailing that you were allowed to do for a really, really long time was double-handed sailing. And at the time, there was a big push to get double-handed offshore sailing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was asked by someone to sail with them, and I really liked it. It was sort of similar but new. I can make a boat go fast, and the boats were pretty small, 33 feet or something. But yet it was so alien, sailing at night in the dark, navigating, not sleeping. I mean, all of that. Anyway, I did that for 3 years, and I really loved it. I mean, it is just the rawest form of sailing, I think. More so in a way, I think, than solo sailing, because there's two of you, you think you can push at 100% all the time. So you do. And last year I did it was like my biggest sailing challenge ever. I sailed around Great Britain and Ireland with Dee Kafari, who's an amazing woman. Yeah. I think she circumnavigated the planet 6 times,
Wow.
And some on her own, some with a crew, some with a boat full of amateurs. And she's just amazing on the boat, and got better and better, and I got worse and worse.
Don't believe that.
It was like 15 days around Great Britain and Ireland on this tiny boat.
That's amazing.
It was full on, but great. I mean, when I look back now, the best thing about it was my relationship with Dee, and sailing with Dee, really, and actually sort of seeing. It's a long time, isn't it? 15 days.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we wouldn't even go on holiday. Well, I don't. Would you go on holiday for 15 days? No. You're like, that's way too long. I mean, we're just gone not on the phone or the internet, or not caring about anything really, apart from what we were dealing with there and then for such a long time. But the problem with double-handed sailing is lack of sleep. And, obviously I wear a smartwatch, and at the end you look at the smartwatch, you've slept for 2 hours in every 24.
Wow.
I think I'm too old, really.
I'm definitely too old for that.
It took a long time to recover. And this year I've been classic 6-meter racing on a fantastic campaign. The owner has 3 boats. He's newly restored them all. There's 36 coats of varnish. And we love the boats. And I have a new respect, really, for people who sailed those kind of boats. They're 90 years old.
Yes. And
they're really hard to sail. But it's a great fleet, and it's been great fun building that team also. So I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So you're constantly learning, aren't you? You're changing, like, you're an incredible sailor, but you're changing your boat types quite incredibly over your time. So they were talking in the conference this week about always be a learner, not a knower, and that way you'll have a more exciting life, if you like, and a more and I think you really are that, aren't you? Because you're throwing yourself onto boats that I'll just throw myself onto this super yacht and sail it. I mean, that's just staggering, Shirley. That's incredible.
Well, it's one of the joys of my sport is that I can't imagine. Well, maybe if you like row or something, you row in a river, and then maybe you row in the sea, and then you cross. I don't know. You can do slightly different rowing, but sailing's so diverse, isn't it? And I love that about it. You never feel like you've cracked it. And even if you do sail the same boat for a long time, there's always more to do. And you're always trying to sail it better and more efficiently. You never do it to 100%. So I think people stay in the sport a long time. Sailors don't really stop, do they? Yeah. And I think that's why there's always a lot to learn. You never complete. But also, I think I'm good at surrounding myself with good people, and I like that. I like to work with the best, and learn from them. And part of that, I guess, has come from the Olympic world. You know, if you're going to win a gold medal, you've got to be surrounded with talent, whether it's the guy who makes the mast or, you know, looks after your boat or whatever, coaches you. You know, you won't win unless you have all that. It's so hard to win a gold medal. Yeah. So, so it's hard. All that's expensive. Working with good people, whatever you do in life, does not come cheap. And I suppose I also have a bit of a reputation for that, you know, but it's so infectious, even with the 6 meters. I mean, just brought in some brilliant technical people and really great coaching, and the culture and the energy that came from working with people who are passionate about what they do, whether it's, you know, electronics or rigging or just having them involved, you know, in the team. Really, I don't know, I love that. We've talked a bit about it here at this conference, about just getting the right culture, and then everything kind of happens from that. You know, if everyone is learning and you're investing in everybody by bringing in really good people so everybody learns, then I think the results just kind of follow. You don't need to worry about them. And in the sports, you know, in the sports field, well, you know, sometimes you won't win, but I just think you've done all we can. You know, we've brought in good people. We've learnt what we could. We know what our mistakes are, and we'll learn from that for the next time. But it is infectious working with really passionate, brilliant people. And we have that in boating, you know, wherever you look.
Yeah. So now you have a podcast, and you're again surrounding yourself with amazing, achieving sailors in that podcast, in the interviews that you do. One of my favourites was Tom Slingsby. Why would it not be as an Australian? But how does that, I'm guessing that feeds your need to learn as well, because you love learning about them. Am I right?
Oh, it's interesting, the podcast. You know, I'm a podcast listener. I love podcasts. And we felt when the CNN show Mainsail stopped, we just felt we were really well placed to make something quite special. You know, technically, my partner as well obviously works in television. And so we had like all the kit and the knowledge to do a pretty high level job. But also we have all the access and the trust of the best sailors in all the disciplines. And so we really wanted to do something special. And also I felt I wanted to interview them like they'd never been interviewed before. I really wanted to give them the time to tell their story, you know, and the whole narrative arc of that. And there always is, you know, massive lows and highs. And I wanted to create an archive of that. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of them. Not that it's made us rich. Unless, you know, I don't know. There's not many podcasts actually make much money, but I'm really proud of them. And the sailors want to come on it.
Yes.
So I guess they really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you say, I like to do my homework. So, you know, I know, I often know a lot about them, but even if I don't, sometimes I don't. And we've done like a boat builder, or, you know, it's really private. Some of the best people in sailing don't shout about it, do they? And so I have to do quite a lot of research, but I take it seriously. I want to touch all the aspects that's made them who they are. So I really love the podcast. You know, we've had John Bertrand. We're just going to name the Aussies.
Excellent.
There's been lots of Aussies. But, you know, those stories are so special. And,
yes.
And because I worked in television, I know in television, when you interview someone, you're actually desperate for them to give a lovely, short, concise answer.
With a statistic in it, preferably.
Well, you know, because already I know in the running order that I've probably got 25 seconds for them to say that.
Yeah.
And so you never get the whole story. And
no. Plus, I think what's really nice about podcasts is the media now tend to sensationalize a lot of what they're doing, and they need to grab something that gets attention, right? And that often means that they're interviewing somebody and they're trying to catch them out. Whereas as a podcaster, we can explore the person from a positive angle. And it's a real privilege to be able to do that. And what I love about doing podcasting is I don't know what it is, but people do tend to open up to me, which I feel is such a privilege to that they do that. And I've had interviewees say afterwards, "Oh, I didn't expect to go down that path," or I didn't expect to say that, or I didn't know that you were going to pull that out of me, or whatever it is. That's what you do with these sailors and these incredible people who, they are ordinary people, but they've worked incredibly hard to get where they are, or they've had real challenges that people don't potentially know about. They only see either the glossy version or the really tough moment, but they don't see all the work that's been to get there and all the things that have happened to them. So you're extracting that from them. So it's an amazing feeling to do that, isn't it? I'm a massive audio fan. It's so intimate, and it's just us here in my hotel room overlooking Villamora Marina, and we're just having a chat like we would in the bar. And so a lot of the sports people that I interview are used to being interviewed, but some aren't. And I think, particularly for them, there's no big camera and a light and a producer, and there's just the two of us. And so it's really intimate and special. And I know quite a lot of listeners write to you, which I love. Yeah. I really love. And one of the comments that I've heard a lot from listeners is like they slightly feel like they're intruding, like they're sitting in the sofa between, me and John Bertrand. And then they hear things. I remember the John Bertrand one, we were at his son's house in the south coast of England, and a beautiful sunny day in the South Downs, and he had the doors open, and there was this tweeting bird outside, and lots of people commented on that. I think they were just there on that sofa with John and I, imagining the doors opening and the South Downs, and I love that about audio. You don't, in TV, you really have to kind of paint that visual picture, but you do it yourself when you listen to a podcast. It is, I'm a big fan. And I am a podcast listener, and because you can listen when you're doing other things. And listeners always tell you, don't they? They always write to me and they're like, well, I was walking my dog, or I was driving to the north of Scotland, or whatever it is. And actually my podcast, a lot of sailors, a lot of Olympic sailors, they listen to it because they hear, to listen to Tom Slingsby actually tell you how he won his gold medal and the things he did and the intensity and the lengths he went to. Oh my God, that is a masterclass in how to win a gold medal. And if you're trying to do it, of course, all those Olympic sailors listen to those podcasts. Yeah. Anyway, we're podcast fans. Yeah. But you're inspiring people, and that's by talking to people that are inspirational, and you're inspirational yourself. So you've got a beautiful way in the way that you interview, and you've got an entirely positive attitude. So I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I know lots of people out there appreciate it, and
thank you.
I certainly do. Yeah. So we've made almost an hour. Can you believe that? Which has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Shirley. It really is a privilege to have you on with our listeners. And I'm going to ask you to just let everybody know how they can find you, where they can follow you, all those sorts of things.
Oh, well, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for asking me. You've made it very easy.
Good.
Thank you, and enjoyable. My podcast is easy to find. It's Shirley Robertson Sailing Podcast, so you can find that everywhere. And I'm Shirley Sail on Instagram and all of that. So yeah, if you want to reach out or know more about sailing, then get in touch. But it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shirley. And we'll see you all on the water soon. And if you're not ready to sponsor us yet, but you'd like to support us in a small way, the best way you can do that is by reviewing the podcast. Or if you go to my website, theboatprincess.com, and click on support the podcast, you'll be able to buy me a coffee, and that will help this passion project be funded for just a while longer. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you on the water soon.